I would imagine there's a lot of like self-improvement junkies like myself over here on YouTube thinking of how to become better, and it obviously means different things to all of us, but what do I normally do is I kind of use some sort of notebook. At the moment, I'm filling in 1% Diary, and it's created by Stephen Bartlett, who has a brand, Diary of a CEO, very known person. And the idea, like with self improvement, most of the people, including myself, were thinking about like big and massive goals. For example, I'm thinking about having a studio that's running at full capacity. And to get to that, I need to do a lot of work. So if I'm thinking about that massive task of filling up a whole studio, it kind of becomes overwhelming. And instead, switching your mindset a little bit to improving by 1%, like for example, for me, if I want to fill up the studio, I need to constantly market. And that marketing comes in form of posting on social media most of the time or running Facebook adverts. And there is a lot of skills that come alongside that. So my goal is to become as good as I can in social media so I can reach as many people as I can and then convert them into paying clients. But it does sound like a big task, and I cannot just snap my fingers and go from having 10 clients to having 30 clients. It doesn't work like that. I have to have like consultations one by one. I have to attract these people. I have to show that my services is worth their money and things like that. So for you, it might be something different, and you're thinking about like really big goal and you have like big ambitions to achieve. And it's a great and wonderful thing, but most of the time it really gets overwhelming. And that's where the concept of improving yourself by 1% every day comes along. And I think originally I heard that idea from James Clear in his book Atomic Habits. And the idea is that you get 1% better every day. So you make a 1% improvement on your habits or whatever it is. I can't remember exactly, but that concept came back to me as I started filling in 1% diary. And over here, you see a bit of a graph. And basically, if you get a little bit worse every day, like if you're not making small improvements, you'll end up going down the hill at roughly 0.03 ratio. Let me try to get that to the camera. And then if you try to get 1% better every day, you end up at the end of the year, you end up being 38 times better. So I don't know like how that actually is calculated, but I absolutely love the concept of being better by 1% every day. And that again comes in many different ways. The only example I can think at the top of my head is like my own studio and my own goals. I can only like post so many times a day. So like if I do one post a week, for me the 1% improvement might be posting like every day and keeping consistency with my social media, and that means that I'll get exposure instead of one time a week. I'll get exposure 7 days per week. Of course, that content, like, so the first goal would be like to produce some form of content. Then the next 1% improvement would be making those posts 1% better, 1% more relatable to people. And then you just constantly try to improve. Like now, I just had a great idea. So let's think like I'm immigrant, I'm from Lithuania. So if I would have to learn English language again, becoming fluent in English language sounds like a massive and frustrating task. You don't know what it consists of. Like, you need to practice speaking, you need to learn the words, you need to learn the structure of the sentence, and learn many things about the English language. But if I think about learning one word per day in a year, I will learn 365 words in English. And the beauty of that, by me learning those 365 words in English, I'll get like a compounding effect and it will accelerate. So if I learn 365 words in English, there is a lot of potential sentences that I can create and I can have a lot of conversations with people. So by having conversations, I can learn more. And you would get like a compounding effect and you would eventually become fluent in English. It will be different for everyone, but that's just like an idea that I guess it's more relatable than me talking about the business, because we all know what it's like to learning a new language. Well, I hope we do. We all learn some language. I learned two and a bit of Russian. But anyways, the approach would be, if I would have to learn Russian, I would have to learn like all the letters and then again, one word every day. And once you learn 365 words, you can form some sentences, you can have the conversations, and you can engage with people. By that, you will be able to learn more. So hitting that 1%, whatever tiny task it is, like it's still making a progress. And I think documenting your 1% improvements is great. Like I'm 60 days in and I'm not trying to, well, if I do, like this is an amazing diary. But I just gone through like 60 days of writing down in the diary. It's 90 days in total. And once I go back, like, and compare myself to the first 3 goals that I set up at the beginning of those 90 days, even though I may not achieve them like after 90 days, but I made some progress towards them, and I can always go back and reflect and think that my situation is not as bad as I thought it is, because I can go back, I can see, oh, I created this video, that's how I stepped out of my comfort zone, and that's how I made progress. And this is great because mentally it becomes a lot easier once you start seeing the smallest improvements, those 1%, and you start gaining confidence because you start taking action towards your goals. Like same thing like fitness. Like fitness is such a big thing, not only because I'm a personal trainer, but just because where we are in the Western world with a lot of people being overweight, like chronic diseases stacking up. But if you want me to talk about that, let me know down in the comments. I think like with fitness, I don't think we approach this very correctly. We're thinking about losing 10 kilos, 50 kilograms, like it depends on the person, but we're thinking about those massive goals. Well, the idea is if you don't walk anywhere, or if you always take a lift, your 1% improvement for today would be taking up the stairs. And that's like small, tiny thing, doesn't mean much, but if you walk up the stairs 365 days per week, you'll burn a decent amount of calories doing that. And what will happen, you'll probably start adding other 1%. So a second 1% would be parking your car further in the car park so you walk. So here you go, you got 2 1% improvements. The third day, I will try to eat a fruit that I have never tried, or I will try to eat 1 fruit a day. And that's another 1%. So you see, like, it doesn't even have to take a year. Like if we would include one thing for your health and fitness, like every day, we would run out of things to include after a year. But jokes aside, you only need to make so many small changes until they compound and they bring you some phenomenal results. And that's exactly why I'm creating those videos. I need to get a lot better at communicating what I want to communicate with the world. So I created the new channel, which is this one, where I'm just sharing my daily ideas to get better at speaking at camera, expressing myself, learning how to engage with you guys who's viewing those videos. But at the moment, there's 0 views, so it doesn't matter. And I will build up a skill by making small improvements every day, by speaking clearly, excluding words like so and like these things, and trying to speak clearly. By removing one of these every day, it would be my 1% improvement. And eventually I would become a fluent speaker to camera. So here we are. There's so many examples that I can come up at the top of my head about 1% improvements that we can all make for different goals, for different ambitions, and yeah, just work towards them. And by doing that, you will find some people to help you. And yeah, let me know down in the comments what your 1% improvements look like on a day-to-day basis, or what you're working on. Maybe I can give you some feedback, because as a business owner, I do 500 things. So having ADHD, well, I don't know if I have ADHD, but having ADHD and running a business seems like a good problem to have, because you can get distracted with so many things and get so many small things done. But anyways, see you in the next one.